Thank you for joining me here on the last segment of today's show. Our last recap on today's episode falls very close to where I'm at right now in New York, where the Eagles had a very convincing 28-3 win over the New York Giants. And yesterday we saw Giants owner John Mara's worst nightmare, which he foreshadowed a little bit on Hard Knocks over in the spring. His worst nightmare came true yesterday as his former franchise player, ran all over them at his former house as well. And Philadelphia now wins back-to-back games off of their bye week to go to 4-2, while the Giants lose their second straight game to fall to 2-5. And on Saquon Barkley, obviously, it's funny because that quote is going to be so famous, right, by John Mara when he's talking to General Manager Joe Schoen, and he said that he's going to have trouble sleeping at night if Saquon ends up in Philadelphia, and for good reason, obviously. I think anybody that knows anything about Saquon, about the Eagles, and the amount of talent that they have, for this situation to happen and for it actually to become true, everybody knew what was going to happen, right? I'm sure Saquon was probably the most bet-on person to score yesterday, because you knew exactly what this was going to be. And for, again, the Giants to just let him walk out the door and for them to be salty about him joining Philly, if you were going to feel hard about that or feel some sort of ill will against Saquon, like a lot of Giants fans did, burning his jersey and everything, don't let him walk out the door. Don't let him leave that building, being unquestionably the best player that organization has had for a while. Who else can you really blame except themselves for letting a guy like their franchise player walk out the door? And their owner, John Mara, knew what was coming. He knew how bad this could be, and he was forced to watch it in his own stadium yesterday, which was, you can only imagine what he was going through. You could feel bad for John Mara, too, a little bit, admittedly. But, looking at the game that Saquon had, right, looking at the performance that he showed and reminded his former team of what he was capable of. 17 carries for 176 yards and one rushing touchdown. He probably could have had four if they didn't push like 2 or 3 times, but I'm sure they probably didn't want to rub it in their face too much in New York as well. Saquon almost had a career high in rushing yards. His career high is 189 back in 2019 against the Commanders, but he was basically almost there, and it was, again, something I'm sure we all saw coming, which was not great for the Giants also. Also in this game, the Eagles recorded 8 sacks to the Giants 4, and the first quarter was just a sack fest of defensive performance. Just nothing was going on in that first quarter. It wasn't too exciting, but for as bad as the first quarter was, the Giants overall continue to be pretty bad at home. They have 0 wins at home in their last 4 games and only 1 touchdown scored. And I think the stats everywhere where Daniel Jones, I think, has 640 something days or something like that since he's contributed to a touchdown at MetLife Stadium. That combined with the game that Saquon had, I think just writes the story itself about the decisions that the Giants have made internally and building this roster, letting a guy like Saquon go. All those stats is just constant reminders, right, of what could have been, probably what should have been, and things like that. So it's crazy just that this is so real, that this is the kind of reality that we're living in. Now the Giants are going to have to live with this, for the next 3 or 4 years while Saquon's there. But will Casper Pitts or Njoku the rest of the season? Probably. Njoku had a pretty decent game, but the Browns, not looking great for them. Maybe, I said that, but I think I might go with Njoku. I think they're, for as weird as it sounds, for a team like the Browns, 1-6 now, I believe, guy like Jameis or DTR playing, I feel like they'd use Njoku a bit more. I don't think that was just a fluke, so I would go with Njoku. I think Pitts has too much talent around him to really put up crazy numbers, and Njoku's probably their best receiver, so I would go with Njoku. But here to just recap this game quickly, Both defenses, like I said, showing out in that first quarter. 6 punts between the both of them to start off the game. It wasn't until the second quarter where Saquon broke off a few big runs to get the Eagles offense going. Saquon scored the first touchdown, making it 7-0 on one of those big drives that he kind of got going. And Philadelphia added on to Saquon's first touchdown the very next drive with a touchdown to A.J. Brown, a 41-yard touchdown to make it 14-0. And it really didn't get too much better from there. Out of the Giants' 12 possessions that they had, they were all punts except one field goal that they got, obviously the 3 points. And Jalen Hurts ran 2 more tush-push touchdowns in during the second half, making it 28-3. And Daniel Jones was yanked in the fourth quarter. Afterwards, he said he wasn't too happy about it because he just wanted to be out there. But, I mean, at 28-3, the way that things were going, I didn't think it really mattered who was out there, but Daniel Jones wasn't too happy about it. But Brian Daboll did clarify that he is going to be the starter going forward if there was any doubt. I'm sure there is doubt, obviously, when he gets pulled, but Brian Daboll made sure to calm all those concerns down, and he will be the starter going forward. But Daniel Jones was not a fan of getting pulled, but this was surprisingly the Giants' lowest points scored all season, even worse than the performance they had in Week 1, where they only scored 6 points. They were only able to score 3 points. Their 2 lowest point totals of the year so far have been at home, which is pretty insane. Also, but for the Eagles, a bit more positively, back-to-back games where the Eagles defense hasn't allowed a single touchdown, albeit against the Browns and albeit against the Giants. Still, something to mention for this Eagles defense that has had a bit of a hard time with the game against the Bucs and whatnot, and not really getting any pressure. It looks like they're getting a lot more of it from a guy like Bryce Huff, right? We're mentioning him a lot more. Jalen Carter imposing his will a bit more. They're getting a lot more from their pass rush, so it's making it look a lot better. And the run defense has been pretty good as well. But what stood out the most to me, other than the fact that, this is the most Giant thing to happen for the Eagles, is that they need to carry on going forward being this relentless with the running game, right? Not just for this game, because obviously you want Saquon. There was a little bit of that personal relationship right there because you wanted Saquon to have a good game. You wanted to give him that pity game ball like it has been thrown around in the NFL, where you play a former team, head coach, assistant coordinator, or something like that. Former player plays their former team. You wanted to give him that game ball, right? But it shouldn't just be the fact that you're playing the Giants, right, for Saquon. In this game, it was 45 carries overall for all runners compared to 15 passing attempts. And it doesn't have to be so egregious like that, but I think definitely this Eagles team should favor the running game a lot more going forward. I shouldn't really see Jalen throwing 10 or 15 more times than they run the ball in any circumstance because of what this team has shown to be so far through the year, right? If you, of course, you never trailed against the Giants or the Browns, 2 bad teams, all in all. So you stuck with the running game, right? It was easier to stick with the running game when you're leading, when you feel like you're dominating them. But even in games where maybe you go down in the first quarter, and we know the Eagles, right? They haven't scored a single point in that first quarter, but if that's still going to be the case, say that's the narrative all year, right, for the Eagles, that they're not going to score a single point in the first quarter. If you run the ball, and you're going to be good at running the ball, right, because you have Saquon, because that offensive line is so good. If you don't score points in the first quarter and you just go on these long drives and you just wind the clock down, at least you don't fall so far behind where the game against the Bucs or other games where you're playing better opposition on the offensive side of the ball. If you're not going to score in the first quarter, at least run the ball yourself to give yourself a chance to stay in the game longer. And then as you get more into the game, you get more out of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and all these great weapons that you have. At least you're not trying to chase the game that you're down 3 or 2 scores right at that point. Because if you run the ball pretty significantly and pretty effectively as well, you at least kind of create some momentum that way. And even if it doesn't work out the first couple of drives, keep trying it, because if it just makes it a lot closer rather than going quick three and outs. Your defense is back out there on the field, and maybe they just don't have it that day, and then you find yourself down 17, 14, nothing, and you have Jalen pass the ball a lot more, and then it becomes predictable, one-dimensional, and it leads to bad performances. A lot of criticism falling on Jalen, where I just feel like they need to be more relentless with the running game to give themselves a better chance. And they're going to score in the first quarter, obviously, eventually, but they need to help out their defense as much as possible, especially with their defense showing a bit of life now. The more they run the ball, the fresher they are. And maybe they build up these leads now if they run the ball a bit more, giving their pass rush that free pass to kind of pin their ears back and rush the passer freely, knowing that they have a lead to play with. So I feel like all of that has to do with the running game. And again, it doesn't have to be 45 carries to 15 passing attempts, but if it does have it be more in favor of the running game, if you have 5 or 10 more carries each and every game than you do passing attempts, I wouldn't be surprised if they're within a score in a lot of these games, or if they win a lot of these games for that reason. And, this game, they're not going to take too much out of it, obviously, because the score was so lopsided, but that one piece that you could take from it, and how the running game really is something that this Eagles team should really focus on. If they carry that on going forward when they're going to play Washington and, the Cowboys in some of these games, and I don't know who else they have on their schedule, but it's really going to help a lot. I truly believe that for this Eagles team, getting their offense more of a groove, it should be something that they should take advantage of a lot more going forward. But this was a good win for them. They're 4-2 now, trying to keep pace with the Commanders. But that'll be all that we have on today's show. Thank you guys for joining me on today's episode of the Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Make sure to tune into all the shows each and every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Like, follow, and subscribe to the show, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. And if you want to see more of this show, not just the live shows, check out both YouTube channels, the GSMC Sports Network channel and the GSMC Podcast Network channel, for a lot more content around the NFL in a variety of different ways. But we'll be back tomorrow, same time at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, to fully recap both Monday Night Football games and talk some more about the games on Sunday with myself, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thank you guys for joining me, and we'll see you guys all back here again tomorrow to fully recap Week 7 of the NFL.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to